Hey guys, it's Rainey Romero with the lovely law firm and the Carolina Justice Report. I'm here with attorneys Sarah Austin and Amy Lawrence, and today we're talking about a hot topic that affects all of the medical community. Hey, so today we are chatting about a really hot topic that is kind of concerning a lot of nurses specifically with what's going on, and that is the RaDonda Vaught case that's going on right now. Just for folks that maybe don't know anything about this case, what do we know right now as far as the background?
So RaDonda Vaught was a nurse at Vanderbilt Hospital, and she was a floating nurse at that time where she would go and help out. She normally was in the neurological ICU from what I understand, but this time she was floating around filling in where she needed to be. And she was down in radiology where they had sent her down, and there was a patient, and what was her last, Murphy, Miss Murphy?
Murphy, yep, Charlene Murphy.
Charlene Murphy.
75-year-old.
Yep, she had really bad claustrophobia, she had a brain bleed, and they asked
they were getting her ready for an MRI.
Right, she was claustrophobic, they wanted to give her a sedative to help her calm her down because she had extreme claustrophobia, and then RaDonda was ordered to give her some medicine.
Yes.
And I understand it was from an electronic, Amy probably knows more about it, but an electronic medicine dispenser
right,
where the nurses
which is
go.
common.
It's really common, and it's what it does is you put in a medicine that you want, the medicine the doctor has ordered, and normally what happens in this situation is there's certain types of medicine that are allowed that are checked off for certain patients under orders, and the system at Vanderbilt at the time was being revamped, and the scanners weren't working to scan the medicine and the patients. And then you also had an issue because normally it autofills with whatever's available for that patient. And none of that stuff was working at the time. So she types in the name of the medicine. It's not coming up. Nothing's coming up. So she types in what she thinks it is. Mm-hmm. And she has to override it because there's no medications in there that are under this medicine. She overrides it and gives, instead of the sedative to Miss Murphy, she gives a paralytic.
And it kills this woman. It kills Charlene.
Yes, she gets coded. They
yeah, I read that this medicine is sometimes used to execute inmates and executions.
Right.
And
this
so
is
it's
used to put people to sleep.
Serious of a drug that she accidentally gave her.
Well, and they started with VE. So I think the one that she was supposed to give is Versed, and then she gave Vecuronium, I think is how you pronounce it, instead. And so, I think when she was typing it in, she was typing in VE, and then of course, the very serious one came up, and that's the one that she gave. But Sarah, we were chatting a little bit before we started rolling, and you were asking well, why is something so serious, such a serious drug, so easily accessible to even get?
Yeah, I think that's a drug that they use in the operating room and only under super serious circumstances. So if you have an electronic system like that and someone from the radiology is ordering this drug, why is that even an option? Why would that name even pop up for this nurse?
Why would it be even this locked drawer?
Right. And why is it even in with every other medicine at the hospital if it's an execution drug or
something so powerful to put you to sleep?
Yeah, that's
permanently or not,
paralytic.
right?
Yeah.
Well, and this happened back in 2017. So it's been a long time, and supposedly Vanderbilt knew about it and covered it up, paid the family.
Yeah, and I will say this, Nurse Vaught she made a mistake, but she told the truth
right
along the way.
Right.
And she immediately told her charge nurse what had happened, and said I needed to chart it, and they told her not to. And then we have Vanderbilt, who has the death certificate read that it was a brain bleed, right? Mm-hmm. There's no mention of any of this. And then because they didn't chart it, the pathologist that looks at it, the person who does the autopsy, sees nothing wrong with it.
Right.
Mm-hmm. So it all goes kind of unchecked for years.
Right.
And there was actually an investigation by the Department of Health of Tennessee, which is the licensing boards of nursing, and they found that it was just a mistake, right? And the complaint against her license is dismissed. And then they get sued, right? They do a settlement. We don't know how much that is, but it was big enough for them not to want to tell us.
And
Well,
they sued
in
the
the
hospital, right?
right,
They
right.
didn't sue her.
Right.
Well, and in the contract with the family, Vanderbilt, told them not to discuss any of that had
Confidential.
happened. So it was kind of all swept under the rug. But I'm kind of confused how it came back out since it was so quiet.
So there was an anonymous tip, from what I understand, to the Medicaid, Medicare department. And so why it's important that you chart these things and that you report these things is because that's a failure of a system. And we see this all the time in civil litigation, a failure of a system. And systems are going to fail. We can all wrap our mind around a system failing. It's when people turn their head and pretend like it didn't happen.
Right.
Because you can't fix a system if you don't acknowledge that it's broken, right? Can't fix what we don't acknowledge. So they're not acknowledging anything's wrong, so they can't fix it so it can happen to somebody else. So somebody anonymously turns in to the Medicaid, Medicare board that this has happened, and then that opens an investigation. And instead of Vanderbilt just telling the truth, all of a sudden these charges against RaDonda come up.
Yeah, and I think they really detract from the hospital and the system failure, because now we're saying, oh my gosh, this nurse is criminally charged, this nurse is so awful, she did the wrong thing, but it's taking away from the why is that medicine even in that cabinet?
Right.
Why were they replacing that cabinet? They didn't give the nurses any other options. And so it's I think it's the hospital's fault 100%.
I do too.
That RaDonda was even in this situation.
Yeah.
But then when she's criminally charged, you're kind of, putting that blame on her and just kind of closing the book instead of starting from the bottom and going through, how does this happen? How do we
How do we
never
fix
let
it?
this happen again?
When life gets ugly, justice is love.